Oh boy, everyone, it would seem we've entered the rant wormhole, where I rant about whatever my $5 or so a month patrons ask me to rant about. This rant is for Anime Watcher, who wants me to rant about why I dislike Mr. Cynical's videos, or just Mr. Cynical's content in general. And it's kind of a funny story because when I first saw Mr. Cynical's channel, it must have been in like 2016. It had to have been 2016 because I saw him from his monster video, and when I clicked on his channel, that was the only video that was there. He had about like 400 subs at the time, something like that. The main reason I clicked on his channel was because he left these really like idiotic comments on Digibro's videos that didn't really understand his points. And I always thought Mr. Cynical seemed like an asshole because of that, because like he would just go on these videos and then blatantly misunderstand the points that Digi was making, or sort of like read intent into them where there wasn't, and just generally left kind of banter-esque comments. And so I always thought he was kind of an asshole at first glance because of that. Although, as I watched through his videos, and I mean, that was the only video at the time, I didn't really know what to make of it. I really liked the atmosphere of that first video. It sort of had this 2008 YouTube vibe almost. It reminded me of 4chan in a way. It felt like I was sort of going into this deep tunnel that I wasn't meant to be in, and I ended up there by accident. I don't really remember most of the points of the monster video. I didn't really care that much about the subject. I just thought the atmosphere of this guy was kind of cool. I thought the dynamic of what he was doing was interesting. The fact that, he sort of played up this mysterious element of being a mysterious character. Of course, as he made more videos over time, there wasn't really a mysterious character anymore because most of the points that he makes in his videos are pretty much the same. Like, it's just applying the same basic philosophy to different ideas, essentially, again and again. Now, some of them, they have more variation, like the Lolicon video. I certainly wouldn't call that like an extension of the Kreia video, for instance. But the broad philosophical stances that are presented in it are presented in pretty much all of the videos, except maybe the monster one, depending on how you interpret it, and the response he did to Digi. But I mean, even that, like if you see the commonalities within all the videos, it's pretty easy to see. Okay, this guy just literally thinks the same things over and over and over again, which is fine. But like it's weird to me because the appeal in the beginning of his content for me wasn't really what he was saying or how he was saying it. It was more so just seeing how weird and mysterious this character is. Ooh, who is Mr. Cynical? Who is this guy? And then over time, as you watch his videos, they start to kind of build their own personality, even though they're extremely dry and have no personality whatsoever. You begin to see what's common within each of the videos, and so you get a sense of who he is, and then it's not interesting anymore because it's like, okay, there's not enough personality to go off of here. You just literally say the same things again and again, and so that was kind of the way that I felt for a while. But it was interesting when the Kreia video first came out because I remember the day it first came out, and I watched the whole thing, albeit in segments because it was it was 2 hours long. But I watched the whole thing, vehemently disagreed with the majority of the points in the video, and it was funny. I think I said something in a vlog at the time, or like in a comment or something. I said, Mr. Cynical spends way too much time using clips in the videos, which is still how I feel. But his argument against that point at the time was he said, the reason I use so many clips is so people who watch the video can come to their own interpretation about the game. But if I wanted to do that, I would just play the game myself. The reason I come to the video is so I can get your interpretation of those events. And the video wouldn't have been 2 hours long if he didn't just show all of those clips. He could have just described what was in the game. But, I mean, if it makes it easier to organize for him, and if he wants people to interpret it their own way, I can understand that. But, like, it's for me as a viewer, like, I can get the basic idea of what he's saying, and if I want to go deeper, then I would just play the game myself. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. I mean, most of the people who were watching the video in the first place probably played the game, or at least had some semblance of knowledge of deeper Star Wars lore, or why the hell would they be clicking on a video called The Philosophy of Kreia? So it's kind of weird to me that he used this eclipse for so long. But at the time, even though that was kind of a pet peeve for me, which I'm still really bothered by it, to be honest. I think it just makes the video paced weird. But at the time, I was really, really impressed with the video, and this is something that I still respect about it, is just how long he spent working on it. Like, the video really is a feat in the sense that, the dude spent months and months working on this monolith of a YouTube video. And it was just kind of a dry analysis piece. Like, there wasn't really anything that special about it. But I think the fact that it was so long at the time, it just kind of wowed me. I sat there and go, wow, the video can be that long. But over time, I've come to the realization that length does not equal good. And this is something that, I disagree with a lot of my peers who were or are a big fan of his channel, is that, like, they look at these videos and then they go, wow, 53-minute follow-up to the Star Wars video. Oh wait, 53 minutes. I'm just like over here going, oh wait, 53 minutes of just repeating all of the same points that you made in the first video ad nauseum, just as you did in that video. Oh boy, okay. Nothing changes. That's the thing, is that, like, all of his Star Wars videos make more or less the same points. And there's not really, like, there's not any point for them to be that long. But, when I watched them at the time, I was just like, wow, long videos are like the ego ideal, This is the thing everyone should be doing, just because length equals good. But quality, I'm gonna say something pretty radical here. Quality isn't always quantity, Sometimes you have to have quality stuff instead of lots of stuff. It's a very radical take for me to take on here. But, like, the fact that it's super long doesn't automatically make it good. It does not automatically make it good for something to be super long. And at the time, I was just so impressed, which, again, like, I still respect the length of the video, but that doesn't mean it's a good video. Just because I could sit down and say, wow, I really respect this a lot, doesn't mean I'm automatically going to say it's a great piece of work. And, recently, trying to rewatch it, I could not even get through the first part, because his voice drones on and on and on. And it's really not suited for YouTube videos. It's just something that he kind of uses. And, like, he's citing all of these different things about Nietzsche and all this other nonsense. And, like, it just takes so long. And that's another thing, is that, like, I think Mr. Cynical's entire philosophy, there are aspects of it that I agree with, but I think in terms of AniTube, it is probably the most evil philosophy on all of anime YouTube. I can't really think of anything that parallels it. And maybe I haven't maybe I haven't seen enough anime YouTubers to really get the breadth of the philosophical wasteland we live in these days. But if you unironically respect and cite Nietzsche, and believe that Nietzsche was right about nearly anything, then I feel like you need to seriously reassess your priorities as a human being or as a philosopher. Because Nietzsche is probably one of the worst philosophers that have ever existed. Almost everything about what he believed is wrong, and it's provably wrong by history and science. And so I have some major problems with that entire line of thought. It's very, very ideological. It doesn't matter if what I say holds up to objective scrutiny. I'm just gonna say it again and again because emotions are cool, guys. That type of thing. That's what Cynic's videos seem to represent to me. Is that, like, no amount of science or objective arguing, and I mean, these opinions ultimately are subjective. That is what it is. But you should always be seeking to question the first stance that you have. Like, if you believe something, the job of someone who is objective is to take that into account and to think, okay, what I'm thinking right now must be wrong. Let me find out why. And then you're sort of trying to dissect it as much as humanly possible to, find all of the flaws in the train of logic, to constantly be questioning every single bit of information you take in and every thought that you have, and then using the scientific method to try and come to, conclusions with deductive reasoning and all this other stuff. Like, you should be seeking to apply the scientific method as far as you possibly can, even in philosophical endeavors. And it is ultimately a subjective field. Philosophy is, it's inherently subjective. Most of these things are inherently subjective. But that doesn't mean you can't try and be as close to objectivity as possible. And it feels like Mr. Cynical has this dogmatic view of, obsessing over, these ideas that are very easily provably wrong. And that's one of the main things that I find to be annoying about his work, is that, I can watch these videos and I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but it's just wrong. Like, it takes so little time to dissect what's wrong about these videos that it's honestly kind of incredible. Like, every single philosophical stance, well, not every single one, but the vast majority of them, when put under any scrutiny whatsoever, they fall apart. And, like, it's honestly impressive to me, how he can sit there and make like a 2 hour video and then a 56 minute video or something like that, right after, that just clarifies all of the same wrong points again and again. And I guess that's one of the most annoying things about his channel, is just that it drones on and on. It's very dry, very long-winded, unneedingly, and almost all of his stances are wrong. The only video I think that has good points is the Lolicon video. Now that video is very long and it's kind of boring, but I think it's definitely worthwhile. There's like minor things that I disagree with about that video, but mostly just like the framing of certain subjects and how he describes certain issues, but really that's a nuanced problem. Um, but pretty much, like, I would say like 90% of that video is accurate, and it's a really good video. But otherwise, yeah, otherwise, I'd say the entire channel is, especially the Ava video. Like, how do you come to the conclusion about Ava? Ava is about free will. Ooh, look at me. Ava is about free will and being an artist. Ava is about connections. It's about, Ava is about making connections in spite of, in spite of the world that we live in, and trying to. It's like that. It's like that meme. It's like the 4chan meme where it says something. I can't even remember the exact meme at this moment, but it said something like, stop being awkward and try to make a fucking connection, and then it has like Shinji and Asuka sitting on like a on a board game. They're on the box of a board game, and that's what the show is about. It's about embracing. Ooh, my dog just yawned. It's about embracing human connections in spite of the turmoil that we live in, and to try and not constantly escape reality, but instead to embrace what reality is. That's not a point about free will. That you're just interpreting a point about free will there that was never there. And so yeah, and the fact that, like, he tries to defend the rebuilds through saying that they're philosophically correct is just bizarre. Like, the TV ending is the best ending because it expresses the idea that it meant to express perfectly. There's no need to. I don't even like. I haven't seen End of Ava, so I can't really say. But I know that if I watched it, I wouldn't like it. And like the rebuilds, there's no reason for the rebuilds to exist, other than to just dumb the ideas down to normies. Like, if you're too stupid to understand why the TV ending of Evangelion was good, then you just shouldn't be watching Ava. Like, there's no reason there's no reason that we should be making rebuilds that are bad in pretty much every way but philosophically, just so people who are stupid can understand what the message was in the first place. You should never be lowering yourself to your audience to make them understand when they're just not going to understand. So I don't understand, like, I didn't understand the whole point about free will, but I didn't understand why he could sit there and defend movies that are bad in pretty much every technical sense. Um, but then go on to say that, oh, Goat Jesus was right because of the themes and stuff, and it just it felt really weird to me, like a unneeded point. Like you could have just gotten everything from the TV ending anyway. Um, and I really, that's another thing, is that like so much of what he says in his videos doesn't really feel like it's doing anything to the conversation. Like these all feel like ideas that pretty much anyone could have had. um they don't really feel like they're progressing the conversation in an insanely, monumental way. Maybe for normal people it is, but like I don't care about normal people. Like, this is very selfish of me to say as a viewer, but like when I come to a channel, I want to be trying to find something that caters to me as an individual. And Cynic's content just doesn't do that. It sort of feels like it's trying to appeal to this broad strata of person who, need to know about egoism and stuff. Like using egoism with Star Wars characteristics and all this type of thing. Like, I already know about these ideas. I don't need to see them applied to Star Wars for 2 hours of you repeating yourself. Like, it's mostly just comes down to a personal. It's not just personal grievances with the philosophy itself, because like I watch channels that I disagree with. That's fine. Like I've said, many different creators are demonstrably evil in their worldview, but like if you're not going to present that well, then the product has no reason to exist. Well, I'm not going to say that, because that just sounds, that sounds a bit too far, but it has no reason to be consumed for me. It has a reason to exist in the sense that, there's other people who would want it to exist, so then they can consume something that they enjoy. But for me, there's no reason for me to consume it. Um, and so hopefully that sort of explains my entire mindset coming into his videos. Is that I respect him. I respect the work that he puts in, but ultimately I don't think they add very much to the conversation other than like a surface level understanding. And I mean, I make videos like that too. I think we all make videos that are just kind of for normies, but man, it can get tiring sometimes. It can get tiring to see stuff like that, especially if the ideas in it are just wrong. He drones on too much, don't like his voice. The editing is kind of rudimentary and has no personality. Um, was there something else? Yeah, he just repeats himself too much, pretty much.